I couldn't believe what I was watching. My chest tightened as I stared at my phone screen, where my mother sat at our family dining table, wine glass in hand, completely unaware she was being broadcast to the internet. "Sinead? Oh, please," my mom scoffed, rolling her eyes dramatically. "My daughter thinks selling houses makes her successful. She couldn't hack it in nursing school, and now she's just wandering through life like a desperate failure." My cousin Jenna had texted me an hour ago, "You need to see this, I'm so sorry." She'd attached a link to her latest live stream, part of her ongoing attempt to become a social media influencer. I'd been out of town at a real estate conference in Providence when the family gathered for Sunday dinner, and I was just settling into my hotel room when the message came through. "My name is Sinead Sullivan. I'm 32 years old, and for the past 5 years I've been quietly paying my mother's medical bills after her rheumatoid arthritis diagnosis. I'd been driving her to appointments, handling her insurance paperwork, and covering her medication costs, all while working 60-hour weeks to maintain my real estate business in Boston. No one at that dinner table knew that I'd emptied my savings account last year when her insurance denied coverage for a specialized treatment. It's such a shame," my mother continued on the video, seeming to relish the attention from my aunts and uncles. "All these grand dreams about becoming a nurse, and now she just sells houses to people who actually succeeded in life." She laughed, and to my horror, I could hear my uncle and aunt chuckling along with her. Jenna's camera caught everything. I could see she was filming from her lap, probably trying to be discreet while documenting everyday family life for her social media followers. My mother had no idea she was being recorded, which made her words all the more devastating. "Remember when she dropped out of nursing school?" My mother turned to my aunt. "She came home crying about how hard the exams were. Pathetic. And now she acts like selling a house every few months makes her successful." The truth was that I'd put my nursing education on hold specifically to help her when she got sick. I was making decent money in real estate, but every extra penny went to her medical care instead of back to school. "Sinead just doesn't have what it takes," my mother sighed dramatically, reaching for her wine glass, the same wine I'd purchased for family dinners. "Some people just aren't cut out for real achievement." The livestream continued for another excruciating minute before Jenna finally turned the camera away. I sat frozen in my hotel room, tears streaming down my face as the bitter reality sank in. For years, I'd told myself that my mother's occasional harsh comments were just her pain talking or her old-school approach to motivation. But this wasn't a momentary lapse. This was who she truly was, and now there was undeniable proof. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Jenna. "I'm so sorry you had to see that. I didn't realize what she was saying until it was too late. Do you want me to take the video down?" I stared at the message for a long moment. "No," I typed back. "Leave it up. I need to show you something tomorrow when I get back." The drive back from Providence the next morning was a blur. I barely remembered checking out of the hotel or the 2-hour journey home. My mind kept replaying my mother's words, her laughter as she mocked the career I'd built to support her. 5 years ago, my life had been on a completely different path. I was 27, halfway through nursing school, and thriving. I'd always wanted to be a nurse, to help people, to make a difference. Then came the call that changed everything. Mom had collapsed at work and been rushed to the hospital. The diagnosis: aggressive rheumatoid arthritis that would require ongoing treatment and care. "It's not fair," she'd cried from her hospital bed. "How am I supposed to afford all this? The insurance barely covers anything." I'd held her hand and promised I'd help. "We'll figure it out together, Mom." My father had passed away when I was in high school, leaving Mom and me to rely on each other. Despite her criticisms and occasional harsh words, I believed we had a bond that mattered. She'd sacrificed for me growing up, working extra shifts, making sure I had opportunities, and now it was my turn to step up. Within months, I made the difficult decision to pause my nursing education. Real estate had flexible hours and the potential for good money. I could drive Mom to appointments, handle her care, and still earn enough to cover our growing expenses. It was supposed to be temporary, just until she stabilized, just until I could save enough to return to school. But temporary turned into years. Mom's condition had improved with the treatments, but she still needed expensive medications, regular specialist visits, and physical therapy. I'd become the sole manager of her healthcare, spending hours arguing with insurance companies and researching treatment options. "You've become so responsible," she would occasionally say in rare moments of appreciation. Those words had sustained me through countless sleepless nights and stressful work weeks. I pulled into my driveway and sat in silence. I hadn't told Mom I was coming back today. She thought I was still in Providence, networking with other realtors at the conference, an opportunity I'd cut short after seeing the video. My phone buzzed. A text from Jenna. "I'm at the coffee shop on Maple. Can meet whenever you're ready." I took a deep breath and tried to organize my thoughts. Opening my laptop bag, I pulled out a folder labeled Mom Medical. Inside was a meticulously documented record of every payment I'd made over the last 5 years. Every insurance premium, every medication copay, every specialist visit, all cataloged with receipts and bank statements. I'd been keeping these records for tax purposes, never imagining they would serve as evidence of betrayal. I gathered the folder, took one more steadying breath, and texted Jenna back, "Be there in 15 minutes." The coffee shop was busy, but I spotted Jenna immediately. At 16, she stood out with her vibrant blue hair and oversized headphones. When she saw me, her face crumpled with guilt. "I'm so sorry, Sinead," she blurted as I sat down. "I didn't know she would say those things. I was just doing my usual live stream thing, and then Aunt Patricia started talking about you, and it got so mean, and—" "It's not your fault," I said, cutting off her rambling. "Actually, I need to thank you." Jenna looked confused. "Thank me? For what?" I placed the medical folder on the table and opened it, revealing 5 years of payment records, appointment schedules, and insurance correspondence. "For showing me the truth," I said quietly. "I've been paying for everything. Her medications, treatments, insurance premiums, everything." Jenna's eyes widened as she flipped through the documents. "This is thousands of dollars." "Over 100,000, actually," I confirmed. "I put my entire life on hold for her. My nursing degree, my savings, even relationships. Everything went on the back burner because I thought she needed me." Jenna looked up from the paperwork, her expression shifting from shock to anger. "And she calls you a failure? That's so messed up." I nodded, feeling a strange calm settling over me. I always thought her criticism was her way of motivating me, that underneath it all, she appreciated what I was doing. I laughed bitterly. Guess I was wrong. "So what are you going to do?" Jenna asked. I took the folder back, my decision crystallizing as I spoke. "I'm done. I've already got the paperwork ready to remove myself from her accounts." "You're not going to confront her?" I shook my head. What would be the point? She'd just deny it or tell me I'm being too sensitive. I pulled out my phone and brought up my banking app. I've been putting aside a little money each month, hoping to eventually return to nursing school. Now I'm going to use it for exactly that. As I spoke, I transferred the money, funds I'd earmarked for my mother's next round of treatments, into my personal savings account. The action was small, but it felt monumental. "Wow," Jenna whispered. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything," I replied, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. "I've spent 5 years being her safety net while she dismisses everything I do. That ends today." I showed Jenna the acceptance letter I'd received months ago from the nursing program, the one I'd nearly deferred again because of Mom's planned treatments. "I start in the fall," I told her, "and I'm not deferring again." Jenna reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I'll send you the full video, just in case you need it." As we parted ways, I felt the weight of years of obligation lifting. For the first time in so long, I was choosing myself. The guilt I'd expected to feel was nowhere to be found, replaced instead by a sense of clarity and purpose that had been missing for far too long. The insurance company representative sounded confused when I called. You want to remove yourself as the guarantor on Patricia Sullivan's accounts? May I ask why? Personal reasons, I replied, my voice remarkably steady. I'll no longer be responsible for any payments after this month. It was day 3 of my new resolve. I'd spent the weekend in a productive frenzy, calling insurance companies, updating payment information, and drafting emails. My dining room table was covered with paperwork as I systematically dismantled the financial web I'd created to support my mother. The representative continued. Ms. Sullivan, I should inform you that without your support, your mother's premium will increase substantially, and her coverage options may change. I understand. I paused. Could you please send a formal letter explaining these changes to her home address? I want to make sure she's fully informed. I knew exactly what I was doing. The letter would arrive in a week, giving me time to implement the rest of my plan before the inevitable confrontation. My phone had been buzzing with messages from my mother since yesterday. She had no idea what I was doing, but she'd expected me to drive her to a doctor's appointment this morning. I hadn't shown up. Where are you? I've been waiting for an hour. The doctor's office called. They said my insurance card was declined. Fix it ASAP. Are you ignoring me? Answer your damn phone, Sinead. Each message strengthened my resolve. I switched my phone to silent and continued working. By evening, I had completed most of the financial separations and moved on to the next phase. I opened my laptop and began composing a single, carefully worded email to be sent to my entire extended family. Dear family, after much consideration, I will no longer be managing my mother's medical care or financial support. For the past 5 years, I have covered all expenses related to her condition, totaling over $120,000. This has included insurance premiums, medication costs, specialist visits, and numerous treatments. I've made this decision for personal reasons, but I wanted you all to be informed, as my mother may require assistance moving forward. Attached is a detailed breakdown of the support I've provided over the years, should any of you wish to help. I hope you understand that this was not a decision I made lightly. Best regards, Sinead. I attached the spreadsheet I'd created documenting every payment, every appointment, and every hour spent managing her care. The evidence was irrefutable. My cousin Jenna had sent me the full livestream video as promised. I downloaded it and saved multiple copies, one to my computer, one to my cloud storage, and one to a USB drive. I had no specific plans for the video yet, but something told me it might be necessary. The doorbell rang, startling me. Through the peephole, I saw my mother standing on my porch, her face contorted with anger. I stepped back, my heart racing. Sinead, I know you're in there. Open this door right now. I remained silent, watching her shadow move beneath the door. You've missed 3 of my calls. My medication refill was denied at the pharmacy. What are you doing? I took a deep breath and spoke clearly through the door. I'm not doing this anymore, Mom. You'll be receiving information from the insurance company soon. I suggest you read it carefully. What are you talking about? Open this door. No. The single word felt powerful on my lips. I've heard what you really think of me. I think it's time we both moved on with our lives. There was a moment of confused silence before she exploded. Is this about money? After everything I've done for you? I almost laughed at the irony. Goodbye, Mom. Please don't come back. As her protest grew louder, I walked away from the door, returning to my laptop to finish what I'd started. With each step, I felt lighter, as if I was finally shedding a burden I'd carried for far too long. The fallout came swiftly. Within hours of sending my email, my phone exploded with notifications. Aunt Maureen was shocked and appalled by my abandonment. Uncle James thought I was being selfish and cruel. My cousin Thomas suggested I sort out whatever petty disagreement I was having with Mom. Only Jenna, and surprisingly, my elderly Aunt Bridget seemed to understand. Bridget's message was simple. It takes courage to stand up for yourself, dear. Call me if you need anything. I blocked my mother's number first, then one by one I muted the relatives who couldn't bother to ask for my side of the story. The silence that followed was strangely peaceful. 3 days later, I sat in the admissions office at Boston City Nursing School, finalizing my re-enrollment for the fall semester. "You've been away from the program for quite some time, Ms. Sullivan," the advisor said, reviewing my file. "But your previous academic record is strong. You'll need to take a placement exam to determine if any refresher courses are necessary." "I understand," I replied, feeling a surge of excitement. "I've already started reviewing my old textbooks." As I walked across campus afterward, I felt a sense of belonging that had been missing for years. This was where I was meant to be, pursuing my own dreams instead of living in service to someone else's needs. My real estate business would need adjusting to accommodate my class schedule, but I had already started planning. I'd focus on fewer clients, concentrate on higher value properties, and hire a part-time assistant for administrative tasks. The income would be reduced, but without my mother's expenses, I could manage. When I returned home, a formal-looking envelope awaited me in the mail. Inside was a letter from the insurance company addressed to my mother, mistakenly sent to my address. It detailed the changes to her coverage and the significant increase in premiums now that I was no longer the guarantor. I should have felt guilty. Instead, I felt vindicated. My phone rang. Jenna. "Have you seen what's happening in the family group chat?" she asked without preamble. "I left all those chats," I admitted. "What's going on?" "Your mom is telling everyone you've had some kind of mental breakdown. She's saying you've been under stress from your failing business and that's why you're acting out." I could hear the air quotes in Jenna's voice. She's completely twisting everything around. I sighed, unsurprised. Classic deflection. "That's not all," Jenna continued. "She didn't realize I was still in the chat, and she's convinced Aunt Maureen to let her move in temporarily until she sorts out her medical situation." "Of course she has," I said, shaking my head. "Mom's always been good at finding someone to rescue her." After hanging up, I opened my laptop and found myself staring at the video file Jenna had sent, the live stream that had changed everything. I hadn't watched it since that first devastating viewing in my hotel room. My finger hovered over the play button. There was power in this recording. Power to show everyone exactly who my mother was behind closed doors, to vindicate myself in the face of her lies. But did I need that vindication? The family members willing to believe her narrative without even asking me for my side of the story, were they really worth convincing? I closed the laptop without playing the video. I had the evidence if I needed it, but right now I had more important things to focus on. My nursing application was complete. I'd scheduled my placement exam, and for the first time in years, I was planning for my future, not managing someone else's crisis. The insurance letter sat on my counter, a reminder of the changes I'd set in motion. After a moment's consideration, I addressed a new envelope to my mother's actual residence, placed the letter inside, and added a short note. "This was sent to my address by mistake. I suggest you read it carefully." No signature, no emotion, just facts. As I slipped the envelope into the mailbox, I felt another piece of my burden lift away. The consequences of her actions were now hers to bear, not mine. 2 weeks passed in relative calm. I threw myself into preparations for nursing school, studying during every spare moment between real estate showings and client meetings. The placement exam was scheduled for Friday, and I felt a growing confidence with each practice test. Then came the ambush. I was just finishing a showing of a 3-bedroom colonial in Brookline when I spotted them in my rearview mirror, my mother and Aunt Maureen, waiting beside my mother's car in the parking lot. My first instinct was to drive away, but they had clearly seen me. Running would only postpone the inevitable. I took a deep breath and stepped out of my car. "Sinead," my mother said, her voice sickly sweet. "We need to talk." Up close, I could see the strain on her face. Her hair was unstyled, and she leaned heavily on her cane, a prop she typically only used when she wanted to emphasize her condition. "I have nothing to say," I replied, keys clutched tightly in my hand. Aunt Maureen stepped forward. "Your mother is struggling, Sinead. Her medication costs have tripled, and she can't get appointments with her specialists anymore. Is that what you wanted? What I wanted, I said carefully, was to be treated with basic respect and appreciation. What I wanted was recognition for 5 years of sacrifice. What I wanted was a mother who didn't call me a desperate failure behind my back. My mother's face paled. What are you talking about? I saw the video, Mom. Jenna's live stream from the family dinner. I met her gaze steadily. I heard everything you said about me. A flash of recognition crossed her face, quickly replaced by defensive anger. You're twisting things out of context. I was just venting a little frustration. Everyone does that. Aunt Maureen looked confused. What video? Patricia, what is she talking about? I almost laughed at the irony. My mother hadn't even told her closest allies about the live stream, probably hoping I would never discover it. Show her the video if you want, I said to my mother. Or don't. It doesn't change anything. I've made my decision. My mother switched tactics, her voice breaking. I'm your mother, Sinead. After everything I've done for you, how can you abandon me when I need you most? Something snapped inside me. 5 years of suppressed resentment boiled to the surface. Everything you've done for me? I echoed incredulously. Let me tell you what I've done for you. I put my entire life on hold. I spent over $100,000 on your care. I drove you to every appointment, managed every prescription, fought with insurance companies on your behalf. And in return, you called me pathetic. You mocked my career, the career I built specifically to support you. My hands were shaking, but my voice remained steady. I sent proof to everyone in the family, every payment, every appointment, every sacrifice. So don't stand there and act like I'm the villain in this story. Aunt Maureen was looking at my mother differently now, doubt creeping into her expression. Patricia, she said slowly, what exactly was in this video? My mother ignored her, focusing her desperation on me. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, but this is an extreme overreaction. I'm facing serious health complications. I'm aware, I replied calmly. And I've provided you with 5 years of continuous support. Now it's someone else's turn. I turned to Aunt Maureen. She's living with you now, right? Has she asked you for money yet? How many doctor's appointments have you driven her to? How many prescriptions have you picked up? Aunt Maureen's silence was answer enough. That's what I thought, I said, turning back to my car. I wish you both well, but I won't be manipulated anymore. This isn't over, my mother called after me. You can't just walk away from family. I paused with my hand on the car door. You're right about one thing, Mom. Family doesn't walk away from family, but family also doesn't tear each other down or take advantage of each other. So maybe ask yourself, who really walked away first? As I drove off, I glanced in my rearview mirror. My mother was gesturing wildly, clearly berating Aunt Maureen for something. Some things never change, I thought. But I had changed. And as I headed home to continue studying for my nursing exam, I realized I didn't feel guilty anymore. For the first time in years, I felt free. 3 months passed in a blur of activity. I aced my nursing placement exam, enrolled in the accelerated program for students returning to education, and reorganized my real estate business to accommodate my new schedule. I hired Kylie, a bright college student, as my part-time assistant to handle paperwork and coordinate showings when I was in class. The transition wasn't seamless. There were late nights, scheduling conflicts, and the occasional bout of self-doubt, but each small victory reaffirmed that I'd made the right choice. The weight I'd been carrying for years had lifted, and I approached each day with renewed energy and purpose. My family situation had reached an uneasy stalemate. After our confrontation in the parking lot, my mother had apparently shown her true colors to Aunt Maureen, who quietly reached out to me a week later. I had no idea what you'd been dealing with, she admitted over coffee. Patricia told me you were being difficult and selfish. I should have asked for your side of the story. It's okay, I replied, surprising myself with how much I meant it. Mom has always been good at controlling the narrative. The Boston Real Estate Association's annual awards ceremony wasn't something I'd paid much attention to in previous years. I'd been too busy managing my mother's care to attend industry events. But when my broker nominated me for the Resilience in Real Estate Award, recognizing agents who overcame significant challenges while maintaining their business, I was touched. "You're a shoo-in," my colleague Jeffrey insisted during our weekly office meeting. "You've closed more deals than anyone else in the office while starting nursing school. If that's not resilience, I don't know what is." I didn't expect to win, but I was looking forward to the ceremony, a chance to celebrate how far I'd come professionally and personally. The evening of the ceremony arrived, and I found myself in a hotel ballroom surrounded by Boston's real estate community. I wore a dark blue dress I'd bought specifically for the occasion, my first non-work-related splurge in years. After grabbing a glass of champagne from a passing waiter, I mingled with colleagues and reconnected with industry contacts I hadn't seen in ages. "Sinead Sullivan," called out a familiar voice. I turned to see Margot Stevens, one of the most successful brokers in Boston. "I was hoping to see you here. I've been hearing great things about your work in the Brookline market." We chatted about recent property trends, and I found myself easily engaged in the conversation, a welcome change from the distracted, overwhelmed person I'd been for years. My phone vibrated in my clutch. I ignored it at first, fully present in the professional moment I was enjoying. When it vibrated again a minute later, I excused myself and glanced at the screen. 5 missed calls from a number I didn't recognize and a text message. "It's Jenna. Using Uncle Patrick's phone. Emergency. Call back ASAP." A knot formed in my stomach. I stepped into a quiet hallway and returned the call. "Jenna? What's going on?" "I'm so sorry to bother you," Jenna said, her voice tense. "I'm at the hospital with your mom. She fell, and they think it might be a reaction to her new medication. She's asking for you." I closed my eyes, waiting for the familiar wave of guilt and obligation to wash over me. It came, but it was different now, manageable, not overwhelming. "Is she stable?" I asked. "Yes, but they're keeping her overnight for observation. I didn't want to call, but Uncle Patrick insisted." I heard muffled voices, then a shuffling sound as the phone changed hands. "Sinead? Patrick here. Look, I know things have been difficult, but your mother needs you. The doctors have questions about her medical history that we can't answer." As we spoke, I saw the ceremony attendees moving into the main ballroom. The awards presentation would be starting soon. "I understand," I said, making my decision. "But I'm at an important work event right now. I can come by the hospital afterward." "This is your mother we're talking about," Patrick's voice hardened. "Surely whatever party you're at can wait." The old Sinead would have acquiesced immediately, abandoning her own needs for her mother's. But I wasn't that person anymore. "I'll be there in about 2 hours," I said firmly. "Please tell the doctors I'll answer any questions then. And Patrick? Thank you for being there for her." I ended the call and took a deep breath. As I turned to rejoin the ceremony, I caught my reflection in a decorative mirror, shoulders back, head high, eyes clear. For the first time in years, I recognized myself. "And the winner of the Resilience in Real Estate Award goes to Sinead Sullivan." The room erupted in applause as my name was announced. For a moment, I sat frozen in shock. I genuinely hadn't expected to win. Jeffrey nudged me with his elbow, grinning broadly as I rose and made my way to the stage. The crystal trophy felt substantial in my hands as I approached the microphone. Looking out at the audience, I saw colleagues, mentors, and competitors united in recognition of my work. The validation was overwhelming. "Thank you," I began, my voice steadier than I felt. "This means more to me than I can express. The past few years have been challenging, balancing a demanding career with personal obligations. There were many days when I wasn't sure I could keep going." I paused, thinking of the countless nights I'd spent researching treatment options for my mother, the early mornings rushing to prepare for showings after sleepless nights of worry. But real estate isn't just about selling homes. It's about resilience, adapting to changing markets, overcoming obstacles, and finding solutions when it seems impossible. Those same skills helped me navigate my personal challenges and eventually find my way back to my original passion, nursing. The crowd murmured with interest at this revelation. I'm now pursuing my nursing degree while continuing to serve my real estate clients, and I couldn't be happier. So this award isn't just for professional resilience. It's a reminder that we can reinvent ourselves at any point in our lives. Thank you for this honor. The applause followed me back to my seat, where Jeffrey and our other colleagues congratulated me with enthusiastic handshakes and hugs. As the ceremony wrapped up, several people approached to ask about my nursing studies, genuinely interested in my unconventional career path. By the time I checked my phone again, it was nearly 9 o'clock. I had 3 more missed calls from Uncle Patrick and a text from Jenna. She's stable. Take your time. I gathered my things, said my goodbyes, and headed for my car, the trophy carefully wrapped in my tote bag. The hospital was a 20-minute drive across town, and I used the time to mentally prepare for the inevitable confrontation. When I arrived at the hospital room, I found my mother sitting up in bed, looking remarkably alert for someone who had supposedly experienced a serious medical emergency. Uncle Patrick sat in a visitor's chair beside her, while Jenna stood awkwardly near the window. Finally, my mother said as I entered, her tone acidic. Nice of you to fit us into your busy schedule. I set my tote bag down, the corner of the trophy box visible. Hello, Mom. I came as soon as my event was over. How are you feeling? How do you think I'm feeling? I collapsed. I could have died, and you were too busy partying to care. Uncle Patrick cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable. The doctor said it was likely a reaction to the new medication. They've adjusted the dosage, and she should be fine to go home tomorrow. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. That's good news. I'm glad it wasn't more serious. My mother's face contorted with frustration at my calm demeanor. This wouldn't have happened if you hadn't abandoned me. My new insurance is useless. I can't afford half my medications, and these new doctors don't understand my condition like my specialist did. I'm sorry to hear that, I said sincerely. It must be difficult adjusting to new healthcare providers. My measured response seemed to infuriate her further. Is that all you have to say, after what you've put me through? I glanced at Jenna, whose expression reflected a mix of embarrassment and sympathy. She gave me a subtle nod of encouragement. Mom, I said quietly, I supported you for 5 years. I put my life on hold to make sure you had the best possible care. I did everything I could for you, and in return, you called me a desperate failure. You mocked the career that paid for your treatments. You laughed at my dreams. Uncle Patrick frowned. What are you talking about, Sinead? Jenna stepped forward. The video, Uncle Patrick. The live stream I accidentally recorded at dinner a few months ago. Mom didn't tell you about that? My mother's face paled. That's completely irrelevant. Sinead is twisting things out of context to justify her selfish behavior. I reached into my tote bag and pulled out the trophy, setting it on the bedside table. The crystal caught the light, the engraving clearly visible. Resilience in Real Estate, Sinead Sullivan. I won an award tonight, I explained to Uncle Patrick, for maintaining a successful business despite significant challenges. Those challenges included supporting Mom financially and medically for 5 years while she belittled my achievements behind my back. Understanding dawned on Uncle Patrick's face as he looked from the trophy to my mother's defensive expression. I didn't come here to argue, I continued. I came because you needed medical information, and I wanted to make sure you were okay. I don't wish you ill, Mom. I never have. I just couldn't keep sacrificing my life for someone who didn't appreciate it. The room fell silent. For once, my mother had no sharp retort, no manipulation tactic ready. She simply stared at the trophy, visible proof of the success she'd dismissed so callously. I should go, I said softly. I have an early class tomorrow. Jenna, can I give you a ride home? As we left the room, I heard Uncle Patrick speaking to my mother in a hushed, questioning tone. The conversation I'd been avoiding for months was finally happening, but this time, I wouldn't be the one fighting to be heard. 3 months later, I stood in my crisp white uniform, hands steady as I administered an IV to my patient. My nursing instructor nodded approvingly as she observed my technique. "Excellent work, Sullivan. Your clinical skills are advancing quickly." I smiled as I secured the line. "Thank you. It feels like everything's finally clicking into place." After completing my shift at the teaching hospital, I headed to my car, pausing to check my phone. A text from Jenna lit up my screen. "Prof interview going viral. 20K views already." I laughed, shaking my head in amazement. Last week, I'd been interviewed by the Boston Medical Journal about career changers entering nursing later in life. The interviewer had been particularly interested in how my real estate experience had prepared me for healthcare. Both fields require attention to detail, strong communication skills, and the ability to help people through major life transitions, I'd explained. And both taught me the importance of boundaries, something every healthcare professional needs. As I drove home, my phone rang through the car's Bluetooth, an unknown number. "Hello? Sinead? It's Patrick." My uncle's voice sounded hesitant. "Do you have a minute?" I tensed slightly. "Is everything okay?" "Yes, everything's fine. He paused. "I saw your interview. It was quite inspiring." "Thank you," I replied, surprised by the compliment. "Your mother saw it too," he added quietly. I waited, bracing myself for news of her latest criticism or complaint. "She didn't say much," Patrick continued, "but I think seeing you in that nursing uniform, it finally made things real for her. You really are doing it, becoming a nurse, just like you always wanted." I pulled into my driveway, letting the car idle as I processed his words. "I'm proud of you, Sinead," he said, filling the silence. "And I'm sorry I didn't see what was happening sooner." The simple acknowledgement brought unexpected tears to my eyes. "Thank you, Patrick. That means a lot." After we hung up, I sat for a moment, reflecting on how much had changed in less than a year. The trophy from the real estate awards sat on my mantle now, next to my nursing textbooks, physical reminders of my past achievements and future goals. My mother and I still weren't speaking, but that was okay. I had stopped expecting validation from someone incapable of giving it. Instead, I found it in my own accomplishments, in the patients who thanked me for my care, in the professional recognition that validated my choices. As I entered my home, my sanctuary, I smiled at the stack of nursing journals on my coffee table. Tonight I would study for next week's exam, perhaps call Jenna later to catch up. Tomorrow I had 2 property showings scheduled between classes. My life was full, purposeful, and entirely my own. The phone call from Patrick was an unexpected grace note, not necessary for my happiness, but welcome nonetheless. Whether my mother ever came to terms with my decision didn't define me anymore. I had reclaimed my path, my future, and most importantly, my sense of self-worth. And that, I realized as I settled in to study, was the greatest victory of all.